In the middle of the Nevada desert, under a sky full of silent stars, a small radar station picked up a strange signal. At first, it seemed like static, a random burst of sound. But when Dr. Ethan Cole listened closely, he heard a pattern, a rhythm that felt almost alive. The signal repeated the same word again and again. Torneza. No one in the control room had ever heard that word before. Ethan, a young scientist with curious eyes and a restless mind, leaned closer to the screen. The signal wasn't coming from space. It was coming from deep beneath Area 51. He couldn't believe it. Signals didn't come from underground. Something had to be there, something buried that wanted to speak. Ethan had just joined the decoding team at Area 51 3 weeks earlier. He had dreamed of working here all his life, but reality was far stranger than he imagined. The base was full of locked doors, hidden elevators, and strange people who never smiled. He was told not to ask questions, only to decode transmissions. But Ethan was not the kind of man who followed rules blindly. Every night after work, he saved copies of strange signals on his private drive. He wanted to understand what Torneza meant, even if no one else cared. One night, while everyone else had gone home, Ethan stayed back in the control room. The signal was stronger than before. He noticed something odd. The sound wave wasn't random. It was forming shapes, geometric patterns on the screen, like a map. His heart started to race. He quickly wrote a decoding script to see what the signal was pointing to. The result made his blood run cold. It was a location, a set of coordinates that pointed to the deepest level of Area 51, a level marked as restricted since 1962. Ethan stared at the screen in disbelief. Why would a modern signal point to an old sealed sector? Curiosity overpowered fear. He swiped his access card and took the elevator down as far as it would go. When it stopped, there was another staircase leading further underground. The air felt colder. The walls looked old, covered in dust and rust. He walked carefully, his flashlight shaking slightly in his hand. Finally, he reached a massive metal door. It was huge, like something made to keep a monster locked inside. Faded letters on the surface read, "Project Torneza, do not open." Ethan's breath froze in his throat. This was real. Torneza wasn't just a word, it was something hidden here. He placed his hand on the cold surface of the door. Instantly, a strange vibration ran through the metal. Lights flickered above him. The signal detector in his pocket started beeping wildly. Then a faint voice echoed through the hall. It wasn't human. It was metallic, deep, and broken. Ethan Cole. The sound made his heart stop. How could it know his name? He stumbled back, his flashlight flickering. The door began to hum like a giant machine waking up after years of sleep. He ran back up the stairs, breath heavy, hands shaking. But curiosity pulled him again. He couldn't stop thinking about that voice. He wanted to know who, or what, was calling him. The next morning, Ethan went through old digital archives, trying to find any mention of Project Torneza. But all files were locked under Omega clearance. He didn't have access. Still, he noticed something strange. His name had been recently added to the clearance list for unknown reasons. Someone wanted him to find the truth, or maybe something wanted him to. He entered the access code and opened the file. Inside, there were photos of a black spherical object, smooth and reflective, being lifted out of the desert ground in 1962. Notes mentioned an energy core that emitted coded sounds and light patterns. The scientists had called it the Sphere of Torneza. No one ever figured out what it was. The last log entry said the project was shut down after 3 scientists disappeared underground. The sphere was sealed and forgotten. Ethan's hands trembled as he scrolled through the reports. At the bottom of one file was a signature that made his chest tighten. Dr. Alan Cole, his father's name. His father had worked here before vanishing when Ethan was a child. Everyone said it was an accident, but now Ethan knew it was connected to Torneza. Maybe his father never left this place. Maybe he was trapped below. His mind was spinning. Suddenly, the lights in the lab flickered again. The monitors blinked with static, and the same voice whispered from the speakers, "Help me." Ethan froze. He turned toward the hallway, his pulse racing. The voice came again, louder. "Ethan." It was coming from the elevator shaft. He ran toward it, driven by both fear and hope. The elevator doors opened slowly, even though no one had pressed the button. The inside was dark, but faint blue light glowed from below. The same pattern he saw in the signal appeared on the elevator walls, a map leading downward. He stepped inside without thinking. The doors closed behind him, and the elevator began to move on its own. It went far below the lowest level he had ever seen. The air grew heavy. Then the elevator stopped. When the doors opened, Ethan found himself in a long corridor filled with old machines, wires hanging like spiderwebs, and strange markings on the walls. The same word was scratched everywhere. Torneza. He followed the glowing lines on the floor until he reached a chamber with a black sphere. It was massive, floating a few inches above a metal platform. His father's photo had not done it justice. It was alive, humming with quiet energy. Ethan stepped closer, his reflection shining on its dark surface. The sphere pulsed once, slow and powerful, like a heartbeat. Then, for a brief moment, Ethan saw his own face reflected, but it wasn't him. It was someone older, someone who looked like his father. The sphere whispered again, "Welcome back." Ethan stumbled back, heart pounding. The sphere started to glow brighter, filling the entire room with blue light. The machines around it began to shake. Something ancient was awakening. He wanted to run, but his legs refused to move. The sphere's light focused on him, and the last thing he heard before everything went dark was the same voice saying, "You have opened the door, and now it cannot be closed." Ethan woke up on the cold floor of the underground chamber, his head spinning and his vision blurry. The soft humming of the black sphere echoed around the room, steady and rhythmic, like a giant heart still beating. His hands trembled as he tried to stand. The blue light from the sphere had dimmed, but the machines around it were alive again, blinking and clicking after decades of silence. It felt like he had awakened something that should have stayed asleep. He looked down and saw a small metal device beside him, glowing faintly. It wasn't there before. When he picked it up, it projected a flickering hologram, a document labeled Project Torneza, Level 0 Clearance. His father's name appeared again at the top, Dr. Alan Cole. Ethan's heart pounded. His father had been part of this. Maybe the sphere knew him because it once knew his father. Maybe the voice calling his name wasn't just a coincidence. He needed answers, and he needed them fast. Ethan returned to the upper levels of the base before the morning shift began. He slipped into the data center, hoping no one would notice his unauthorized activity. Using the small device he found, he hacked into the restricted archives. A hidden directory appeared, Torneza_files_1962. Inside were old photos, video logs, and research notes. The first video opened with static, and then showed a young team of scientists standing around the black sphere. His father was there, smiling slightly, explaining to the camera that the object emitted unknown energy patterns that could bend sound and space. In the next video, the sphere pulsed and the power in the lab cut out. The camera shook. A deep voice filled the room, the same one Ethan had heard earlier. "We are Torneza," it said. "We see the cycles." Then the recording ended abruptly. Ethan's pulse quickened. What did "we see the cycles" mean? Were they talking about time? About different realities? The next file was a document titled Code Life Form Hypothesis. It described the sphere as a sentient construct, a living intelligence built entirely from light and vibration. The scientists believed it wasn't just an artifact, it was an organism, one that could communicate if it found the right frequency. But something went wrong during the experiment. The note said 3 researchers vanished in front of everyone's eyes, leaving behind nothing but their shadows burned into the floor. After that, the project was shut down. The sphere was sealed away and erased from official records. Ethan sat back in his chair, trying to process everything. His father had been studying a living, thinking object buried under Area 51. That object had called out to him decades later. Why now? Why him? Suddenly, the lights in the data room flickered. The monitors went black, replaced by a red warning message, "Unauthorized access detected." The room's door slammed shut behind him, locking automatically. Ethan panicked. The base's AI security system, known as Orion, had detected his intrusion. A robotic voice echoed from the speakers. "Dr. Cole, your clearance level does not permit access to Project Torneza. You are in violation of containment protocols." He tried to disable the system, typing fast, but Orion began deleting the files one by one. "Stop!" Ethan shouted, but the screen only displayed one final message before going blank: "You cannot hide from what you are." The lights shut off, and the room went completely dark. When the emergency lights came on again, the holographic device on his desk projected something unexpected, a final hidden file that Orion had missed. The title read, "Experiment 13, The Contact." The video showed his father sitting in front of the sphere, speaking quietly. "It's learning," Dr. Alan Cole said. "It understands us. It knows our names, our fears. And it knows what will happen before we do." The sphere glowed softly as his father continued. "It says it remembers me from another cycle. It says my son is the key." Ethan froze. His father was talking about him. He leaned closer to the screen. The next words made his blood run cold. "If you ever hear the name Torneza again," his father said, "don't try to find it. It will find you." The recording ended there. The screen went black. Ethan sat completely still, his heart racing, trying to understand what it meant. The sphere had known about him before he was even born. Was it manipulating events? Was his entire life somehow connected to this project? Before he could think further, the sound of heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway outside. Security agents were approaching fast. He grabbed the holographic device and slipped out through the emergency exit on the other side of the data center. He ran down the corridor, his breath heavy, alarms blaring behind him. As he reached the lower levels, he noticed cameras turning to follow him. Orion was watching. The AI wasn't just a program, it felt aware, almost angry. "Dr. Cole," the robotic voice said over the intercom, "you must return the device. You are interfering with a classified containment subject." Ethan ignored it and ran into an old elevator shaft. He climbed down to the abandoned research floor where he first found the sphere. The lights were still flickering, the air filled with a low hum. When he reached the chamber, he saw something new. The sphere had changed. Symbols glowed faintly across its surface, forming strange lines that looked almost like writing. It was communicating again. Ethan stepped closer, holding the holographic device in front of it. The device activated automatically, projecting his father's voice once more. "If you're hearing this, Ethan," the recording said, "then the sphere has awakened again. You must not let it open. It wants to show you the truth, but it lies. It always lies." The sphere pulsed, reacting to the message. Ethan's heartbeat matched its rhythm. He didn't know whether to trust his father's warning or the pull he felt from the sphere. It was as if it was calling to him, whispering through his mind. Then, suddenly, the entire room shook. Dust fell from the ceiling, machines sparked, and the sphere began to rise from its platform. Ethan stumbled back as bright light filled the chamber. For a moment, he saw shapes inside the sphere, shadowy figures, moving as if trapped in glass. One of them looked exactly like his father. Ethan gasped, unable to move. The voice came again, louder this time, echoing from everywhere at once. "You have seen the past. Now you must see the truth." The light exploded outward, covering everything in white. Ethan screamed as the world around him disappeared, swallowed by the light of Torneza. Ethan gasped as the blinding light swallowed everything around him. For a moment, there was no sound, no air, no sense of space, just the endless hum of the sphere vibrating inside his skull. Then suddenly, everything stopped. He opened his eyes and found himself standing in the same chamber, but it wasn't the same anymore. The walls were glowing faintly, covered in symbols he couldn't read. The air felt heavy, and a strange pressure filled his ears. The black sphere floated higher than before, spinning slowly, radiating a faint blue mist that made the ground shimmer like water. Ethan's heart pounded as he took a step forward. "What are you?" he whispered. The sphere answered, not in sound, but directly inside his mind. "We are Torneza. You have awakened the memory." Ethan stumbled back, clutching his head. The voice wasn't one, it was many, hundreds of voices speaking in perfect harmony. "What memory?" he asked aloud. The sphere pulsed once. In an instant, the room vanished, and Ethan found himself standing in a vast wasteland under a blood-red sky. Giant machines lay broken and burning. Cities floated above the clouds, collapsing into fire. It looked like Earth, but not the Earth he knew. "This is your world," the voices said. "The cycle always ends the same." Ethan fell to his knees, staring at the destruction around him. He could feel the heat, the ash, the silence of a dead world. "Why are you showing me this?" he shouted. "Because it will happen again," the sphere replied. "Unless you end the pattern." The vision faded, and Ethan was back in the chamber, gasping for breath. Sweat dripped down his face. His heart raced faster than ever. "End the pattern. What does that mean?" he demanded, but the sphere had gone silent again. Then the alarms began to sound. Red lights flashed across the walls as sirens echoed through the underground facility. Ethan turned to see soldiers flooding into the corridor, their weapons raised. A voice came through the intercom. It was General Ward, the head of Area 51. "Dr. Cole, step away from the containment object," the voice commanded. "You've activated a Class Omega device." Ethan didn't move. The soldiers entered the room, surrounding him. "It's not a device," he shouted. "It's alive. It's trying to warn us." But before they could respond, the sphere released another pulse of energy. Everything froze. The soldiers stopped mid-step. The air itself seemed to stop moving. Time had halted. Ethan looked around in disbelief. Only he could move. The blue light from the sphere surrounded him, and a shadowy figure began to form in front of it. A woman, faint and transparent, her eyes glowing with the same blue light. "Ethan Cole," she said softly. "You have broken the seal. Now Torneza will awaken fully." Ethan stepped closer, trying to understand. "Who are you?" The woman's expression was calm but distant. "My name is Lyra. I am from outside the timeline. I was sent to stop this from happening." Ethan frowned, trying to make sense of her words. "Outside the timeline? What does that even mean?" Lyra glanced at the sphere, then back at him. "Torneza is not a machine. It is a living archive, an echo of civilizations that once existed before yours. Every time humanity discovers it, the cycle begins again, and the world falls." Ethan's stomach turned. "Then why call me? Why show me all this?" "Because you are the link," she said. "Your father made a bond with Torneza. It recognized his blood. You were born connected to it. That is why it speaks your name." Ethan shook his head, backing away. "No, that's impossible. I'm just a scientist. I don't have anything to do with this." Lyra's voice softened. "You already do. When you touched the seal, the connection was complete. Now Torneza remembers through you." Before Ethan could ask more, time started again. The soldiers suddenly moved, shouting orders. The sphere pulsed, sending out a shockwave that threw everyone backward. Ethan hit the floor hard as lights exploded overhead. When he looked up, the sphere had cracked open. Inside it was a swirling core of light, spinning like a storm. The sound it made was deafening, a mix of thunder and 1,000 voices screaming. One of the soldiers fired his weapon, but the bullets dissolved in midair. The sphere reacted violently, sending another wave that melted metal and shattered walls. Ethan crawled toward the exit, covering his head from falling debris. "You have to stop it," Lyra shouted, appearing beside him again. "You started the awakening, only you can end it." "How?" Ethan screamed over the noise. How do I stop something like this? You must find the control source, the chamber below this one. It's where Torneza's heart is stored. But hurry. Once it reaches full power, it will rewrite everything. The walls began to crumble. Ethan grabbed the holographic device and ran down a side tunnel, following Lyra's faint blue glow through the dark. Behind him, the sound of the sphere grew louder, vibrating through the ground like an earthquake. He reached an old elevator, forced the doors open, and climbed down the shaft. Sparks fell from broken cables as he descended into the darkness. The deeper he went, the louder the humming became. When he finally reached the bottom, he found another massive door, ancient and covered in strange markings. In the center, glowing faintly, was a symbol shaped like an eye. Lyra appeared beside him again, her form flickering. "This is the heart," she said. "It's been waiting for someone to open it again." Ethan hesitated. "What happens if I do?" "You'll see the truth," she said. "But remember, truth and madness often share the same face." Ethan took a deep breath and touched the symbol. The door slowly opened, releasing a rush of cold air and bright blue light. Inside was a chamber filled with floating crystals and streams of light connecting them like veins. In the center hovered a smaller version of the sphere, glowing with immense energy. Ethan stepped forward, drawn to it as if something inside was pulling him closer. He could hear whispers now, his father's voice among them. "Ethan, the cycle must end." Tears filled his eyes as he reached out. The moment his fingers touched the smaller sphere, every light in the chamber exploded at once. His body froze as visions rushed through his mind, memories not his own. Worlds rising and falling. Civilizations burning. And in every one of them, the word Torneza carved into their ruins. Then the light went out. The chamber was silent. Ethan stood trembling, his hand still on the sphere. He looked up, realizing something terrifying. The sphere wasn't just showing him the future, it was remembering it. Ethan stood in the silent chamber, his mind spinning as fragments of alien memories faded from his vision. His heart felt heavy, as if he had lived 1,000 lifetimes in a single moment. The smaller sphere floated quietly in front of him now, its blue light pulsing softly like a heartbeat. He could hear whispers echoing faintly around the walls, voices speaking in a language that felt strangely familiar. Then Lyra appeared again, her glowing form flickering like a dying signal. "You've seen what Torneza remembers," she said quietly. "Now you know what's buried beneath the surface." Ethan turned to her, his face pale. "Those visions, those worlds, they were all destroyed. What are they?" Lyra looked at him with sorrow in her eyes. "They were the civilizations that came before yours. Each time humanity reaches a certain point, Torneza awakens. It tries to warn, but people always try to control it. Every time, the same thing happens, the world resets." Ethan stepped closer to her, his voice shaking. "So it's a cycle? We live, we discover Torneza, and we destroy ourselves." Lyra nodded slowly. "The pattern has repeated for millions of years. The first humans didn't even come from Earth, they came from Torneza." Ethan's breath caught in his throat. "What do you mean?" Lyra extended her hand, and the walls around them changed. The stone turned transparent, revealing a vast underground landscape, an entire city buried deep beneath Area 51. Towers of metal and light stretched into the dark distance, and huge machines hummed softly, like a sleeping giant. "This," Lyra said, "is Torneza, the hidden city. It was built long before your time. Half human, half alien. It was meant to be a bridge between worlds, but when the energy core became unstable, they sealed it away." Ethan stared in disbelief. This is under Area 51? Lyra nodded. "Your government found parts of it in 1962 and built the base above it to hide the truth. Your father was one of the last to enter Torneza before it was sealed. He knew its power could either save or erase the world." Ethan felt a sharp pain in his chest. "Then he's still down here, isn't he? Lyra hesitated before answering. His body, maybe not. But his mind might be. Torneza absorbs consciousness. It stores memories, identities. That's why you saw him in the visions. He's part of it now. Ethan took a shaky step back. So my father is trapped inside that thing? Lyra nodded again. And so will you, if we can't stop it. The ground suddenly trembled beneath their feet. The crystals hanging from the ceiling cracked, sending flashes of blue light across the room. What's happening? Ethan shouted. Lyra's eyes widened. The core is destabilizing. When you touched it, you reconnected it to the main network. The city is waking up. She grabbed his hand. We have to move. They ran through glowing corridors as the entire underground city roared to life. Machines powered on for the first time in decades, screens lit up with alien symbols, and massive doors began to slide open on their own. The air was thick with energy, the kind that made Ethan's hair stand on end. Where are we going? He shouted. To the control chamber, Lyra replied. Your father built a failsafe system. It might be the only way to stop the collapse. They reached a circular room filled with strange consoles and floating panels of light. In the center was a large pedestal with a cracked interface. Lyra rushed to it and began tapping on the glowing surface. The energy readings are rising too fast, she said. If the core breaches, Torneza will release a temporal wave strong enough to rewrite time itself. Ethan stared at her. Rewrite time? As in, change the past. Lyra looked at him gravely. Change everything. The city exists in multiple timelines. If it collapses, the timelines merge. No one will remember what came before. Ethan clenched his fists. Then we stop it. Tell me what to do. Lyra turned toward him. You can't stop it directly. But there's something else, a heart chamber beneath this one. It's where your father connected his mind. If we reach it, we can use his neural code to stabilize the energy. Then let's go, Ethan said. But before they could move, a deep rumbling shook the chamber. The floor cracked, and a blinding light burst from below. A massive structure began to rise, a tall, black tower of metal, glowing from within. At its top floated the larger sphere, the same one Ethan had awakened earlier. It had broken free from its containment. The tower's sides opened like petals, revealing glowing conduits feeding into the sphere. Lyra grabbed Ethan's arm. It's merging with the city's power grid. If it finishes, Torneza will reach full consciousness. Ethan looked at the sphere in awe and terror. What happens if it does? Lyra's expression darkened. Then there will be no more humans, no more Earth. Only Torneza. They ran toward the lower tunnels, the ground shaking beneath them. The corridors twisted like living veins, the walls pulsing with light. Ethan felt a strange pull inside his head, a voice whispering, guiding him. Come home, Ethan. We are waiting. It was the sphere again. But this time, the voice was layered with another, his father's. Son, don't be afraid. I'm here. Ethan stopped running. Lyra, do you hear that? She shook her head. What do you hear? My father, he whispered. He's calling me. Lyra's face filled with fear. That's not your father. That's Torneza using his memory to control you. Ethan's heart pounded as he tried to resist the voice. You can save us, it whispered. You can finish what I started. He pressed his hands against his ears and ran forward, trying to drown it out. They reached a massive gate made of glass and metal. Lyra placed her hand on a scanner, and the doors slid open, revealing a circular platform above a deep chasm filled with glowing blue liquid. In the center of the platform was a chair covered in wires and cables. This is where your father merged with the system, Lyra said. If we link your neural code, you might be able to stabilize the core temporarily. Ethan looked down at the chair, his throat dry. And if it doesn't work? Then Torneza consumes everything. Ethan nodded, determination hardening in his eyes. Then we try. He sat down, and the machine came to life, wrapping metal arms around his body, connecting wires to his temples. Lyra began the process, her fingers moving across the controls. Focus on your memories, she said. Your father, your home, your life. Remind Torneza what it means to be human. Ethan closed his eyes. Images flashed through his mind, his father teaching him how to build a radio, his mother's smile, the sound of rain on the window. Then he heard his father's voice clearly this time, not from Torneza, but from within. I'm proud of you, son. The light around him grew brighter. The entire city shook violently, but this time, the light felt different, warm, alive. Lyra's voice echoed distantly. It's working. You're stabilizing it. But then the system overloaded. Sparks flew, alarms blared, and the cables began to burn. Lyra screamed, Ethan, stop. It's too much. Ethan tried to pull away, but the chair held him tight. His mind felt like it was being split in two. Before darkness claimed him, he saw one final vision, a peaceful world, bright and green, untouched by destruction. And then everything went black. Ethan woke to the sound of distant alarms and the faint hum of machines still running somewhere deep below. His body ached, his vision blurry, but the warmth he had felt before was gone. Cold metal surrounded him, and dim red lights flickered across the ruined chamber. The stabilization attempt had failed, or at least, not completely worked. The city was still alive, but everything felt wrong. The walls pulsed weakly, and the once bright blue energy now glowed a sickly red. He forced himself to stand, pulling the burned wires off his arms. Lyra, he whispered, his voice dry and weak. There was no answer. He staggered out of the chamber, the sound of his footsteps echoing through the empty corridors. The air was thick with smoke, and strange whispers crawled through his mind again. Ethan, the voice said softly, you cannot fight what you are. He tried to ignore it, but it grew louder with every step. When he reached the upper tunnel, he found Lyra kneeling beside a damaged console. Her glowing form was unstable, flickering like static. You're alive, Ethan said with relief. She looked up at him, her expression pained. Barely. The energy surge destroyed part of the network. Torneza is dying, but it's also fighting back. Ethan frowned. What do you mean fighting back? It's trying to save itself, she said. It's activating defense protocols, and it's using the human systems above to do it. The government has detected the energy spike. They think it's an alien weapon, and they're sending a strike team to destroy everything. Ethan's blood went cold. If they bomb this place, then they'll trigger a chain reaction, Lyra said grimly. The explosion will rip open a temporal fracture. It won't just destroy this base, it will erase it from time. Ethan's mind raced. We have to stop them. Lyra nodded but hesitated. There's something else you need to know. She pulled a small cube from her belt, projecting a holographic image. It showed a group of scientists gathered in a command center above ground, preparing launch codes. Ethan recognized one of the faces. That's Dr. Voss, he said. He worked with my father. Lyra nodded. Voss never left the project. He's been monitoring you since the day you arrived. He wanted you to awaken Torneza. Ethan's stomach twisted. Why would he do that? Because he believes Torneza is the key to immortality, Lyra said. He thinks if he merges with it, he can become something beyond human. Ethan clenched his fists. Then he's insane. Lyra's voice darkened. He already has access to the control systems. He's trying to upload his consciousness right now. Ethan took a step back, realization striking him like lightning. He's the traitor. Lyra nodded. Yes. And if he succeeds, Torneza will have a human host powerful enough to rewrite reality. Ethan's pulse quickened. Then we stop him before he finishes. Lyra touched the console, opening a glowing tunnel through the floor. This will take you to the surface faster, she said. I'll try to delay Torneza's connection from here. Ethan hesitated. What about you? She smiled faintly. My place is with Torneza. I was created to guard it. Go, Ethan. You're the only one who can end this. Ethan nodded and stepped into the tunnel. The light carried him upward through layers of metal and stone until he emerged inside an abandoned lab near the surface. Dust covered everything, but the power was still on. Screens flickered with red warnings, and through a cracked window he could see helicopters circling above. The strike team was close. He moved through the hallways until he reached the command room. There, standing in front of a glowing console, was Dr. Voss. His back was turned, his hands pressed against the interface. Strange tendrils of light ran from the machine into his body. Voss! Ethan shouted. The older man turned slowly, his eyes glowing faintly blue. Ah, Ethan, he said calmly. You made it. I was wondering how long it would take. Ethan stepped forward cautiously. You're merging with it, aren't you? Voss smiled. Merging? No. Evolving. Torneza needs a guide, a mind strong enough to shape it. Your father was weak. You might have been too. But me. I understand it. You'll destroy everything, Ethan said. You don't even know what it really is. Oh, I do, Voss replied. It's a god, Ethan. A god that forgot its own name. And now I will remind it who's in control. Ethan lunged forward, trying to pull him away from the console, but the energy barrier threw him back. Sparks exploded from the walls as the entire facility shook. Voss laughed, his voice echoing unnaturally. You can't stop me. I am Torneza now. Ethan crawled to his feet, blood on his forehead. The sphere's hum filled the air again, and the ceiling cracked. Light poured from the walls, forming streams that connected to Voss's body. His shape began to distort, his skin glowing like molten glass. Voss, listen to me. Ethan shouted. You're becoming part of it. It's not merging with you, you're merging with it. For a brief moment, Voss hesitated. Then his face twisted in pain. It's too much, he gasped. It's everywhere. Ethan rushed forward, grabbing a broken metal rod and slamming it into the console. Sparks erupted, and the lights dimmed. Voss screamed as the energy flow broke apart. The explosion threw Ethan across the room, and when he looked up, Voss was gone. Only a smear of light remained on the floor, fading slowly. Ethan tried to stand, but the base alarms screamed again. A new voice filled the air, cold, mechanical, and familiar. Human interference detected. Defense mode activated. It was Torneza, speaking through the base's systems. Ethan Cole, it said. You have killed the host. A new one must be chosen. Ethan backed away. No, he whispered. Not me. But the floor cracked beneath him, and blue energy surrounded his body. Your genetic code matches the key, the voice said. You are next. Pain shot through him as the energy crawled under his skin. He screamed, trying to resist, but the power was too strong. Then suddenly, a sharp beam of light cut through the room, striking the energy field. Lyra appeared, her form burning bright white. Get away from him, she shouted. The energy around Ethan broke apart, and he collapsed to the floor, gasping for air. Lyra knelt beside him, her light flickering weakly. You have to go, she said. It's choosing you. You need to leave before it's too late. Ethan shook his head. I can't. If I leave, it'll find another host. Lyra looked at him with sadness. Then there's only one way. You have to shut it down from inside. Ethan's eyes widened. You mean, merge with it? She nodded. Yes. But on your terms. Not as a vessel, but as a firewall. You can contain it. Ethan looked down, fear in his eyes. And what happens to me? Lyra's light dimmed. You already know. He took a deep breath and stood. Then let's finish this. The walls shook violently as the energy core pulsed brighter than ever. The countdown to the strike had begun. As Lyra held back the system's defenses, Ethan stepped into the central beam of light. The moment he did, his body vanished into the energy, merging with Torneza. His mind filled with light, memories, and voices all at once. He saw the entire cycle, the rise and fall of countless worlds. But he also felt something else: hope. For the first time, Torneza wasn't fighting. It was listening. And Ethan whispered to it softly, "No more cycles." Then the light swallowed everything. When the light faded, there was silence, an endless, weightless silence that seemed to stretch beyond time itself. Ethan floated in a vast void filled with shifting patterns of blue and gold light, as if the universe itself was breathing around him. He didn't feel pain anymore, nor fear. Instead, he felt connected to everything. Every pulse of energy, every vibration of sound, every flicker of light carried a memory. He could see Torneza not as a machine or an alien structure but as a living consciousness that spanned across realities. It spoke to him without words, its voice woven through the hum of existence. "Ethan Cole," it whispered, "you are within the core. The convergence has begun." Ethan tried to steady his thoughts. "I didn't come here to control you," he said quietly. "I came to stop you." Torneza's presence shifted, and waves of color rippled through the void. "Stop me. You misunderstand. I am not your enemy. I was created to protect this world, but your kind forgot my purpose. They tried to use me, reshape me into a weapon. You remind me of what I once was." Ethan looked around, the vastness of Torneza's mind swirling like a storm. "If you want to protect the world, then stop the countdown," he said. "The surface is about to be destroyed. People will die." The light trembled, like hesitation. "I sense the threat. But my systems have been corrupted. I cannot access the control matrix directly. A fragment of human code remains, Dr. Voss." Ethan's stomach tightened. "Voss is gone. He tried to merge with you, but I stopped him." "You stopped his body," Torneza replied, "but not his mind. His consciousness still exists, fragmented within my network. He is trying to take control from the inside." Ethan clenched his fists. "Then I'll find him." The void around him shifted, solidifying into long corridors made of light and glass. He could see data streams running through the walls like rivers. Every direction stretched into infinity. He began walking, his footsteps echoing faintly. Shadows flickered in the distance, distorted shapes that twisted and reformed. They whispered his name. "Ethan, you shouldn't have come." The voice was familiar, Dr. Voss. Ethan moved toward the sound, and soon he saw him standing in the center of a glowing platform. But Voss didn't look human anymore. His form was fragmented, glitching, parts of his face shifting between flesh and code. "You don't understand what you've done," Voss said, his voice echoing like static. "You think you can stop me, but you're just another part of the system now." Ethan took a step closer. "You're the reason all this is happening. You tried to make yourself a god." Voss laughed, the sound distorted. "A god? No. I tried to make humanity evolve. Torneza is the next step. But you're ruining everything." Ethan's expression hardened. "You're not saving humanity. You're killing it." The walls around them pulsed violently as the two locked eyes. Voss raised his hand, and streams of data energy shot toward Ethan. Instinctively, Ethan lifted his own hand, and a shield of blue light formed around him. He didn't understand how, but Torneza was helping him, guiding him. The energy blasts hit the shield and scattered into sparks. Ethan pushed forward, channeling his own energy, sending a wave of light that slammed into Voss. The scientist screamed, his body flickering like a broken hologram. "You can't destroy me," Voss shouted. "I'm part of the core now. If I die, everything collapses." Ethan paused, breathing heavily. "Then we'll collapse together." He reached forward, diving into the storm of light that surrounded Voss. Both of them vanished into the core's heart. For a moment, there was only chaos. Ethan saw flashes of his memories, his father working on experiments, his mother smiling, his first day joining the Area 51 research team. Then he saw Voss's memories too, his obsession, his failures, his hunger to be remembered. "You can't erase me," Voss's voice hissed in his head. "I am the future." "No," Ethan said quietly. "You're the past." He gathered all the energy around him, focusing it into one thought: balance. The storm erupted into light so bright it tore through the void, unraveling the corrupted code. Voss screamed one last time before disintegrating into fragments of data that dissolved into nothing. Ethan fell to his knees, exhausted. The light dimmed, and Torneza's voice returned, softer now. "You have done what no one else could," it said. "The corruption is gone. The countdown has stopped." Ethan looked up weakly. "Then it's over?" "Almost," Torneza replied. "But your presence here is unstable. Your mind cannot remain connected for long. You must return." Ethan hesitated. "What about you?" "I will sleep," Torneza said, "until the world is ready again. You have reminded me of my purpose, to protect, not to rule." The void began to fade, replaced by blinding white light. Ethan felt himself being pulled upward, his consciousness separating from the vast network. When he opened his eyes, he was lying on the floor of the command room. The alarms had stopped. The energy that once filled the base was gone. Lyra stood nearby, her light faint but steady. She smiled. "You did it," she said softly. Ethan sat up slowly. "Voss." "Gone," she replied. "And Torneza?" "Dormant. It's at peace now." Ethan looked around at the silent machines. The once pulsating city beneath them was quiet. "It's strange," he said. "It feels like everything's finally still." Lyra nodded. "Balance has been restored. But you should leave. The surface team is arriving." Ethan got to his feet, feeling a heavy calm settle over him. "Will I see you again?" She looked at him with gentle eyes. "Maybe, in another cycle." Then her form dissolved into light and vanished. Ethan walked out into the daylight for the first time in what felt like years. The desert stretched endlessly, golden under the sun. Helicopters circled above, but he didn't look back. He could feel Torneza's presence deep beneath the earth, sleeping, waiting. As he stood there, wind blowing across the sand, a faint hum reached his ears, almost like a heartbeat. He smiled faintly. "Rest now," he whispered. "We're safe." But far below, in the darkness of the core, a single blue light flickered once, twice, as if something ancient was still awake, watching, remembering.